We are 1 week out from Powerlifting America Nationals 2025, and it is absolutely stacked. The lineups are crazy. I'm not exaggerating when I say that we could potentially see, and we probably will see, some of the greatest head-to-head clashes and greatest powerlifting battles of all time, ever. I'm talking across any competition in the history of our sport. This could be it. In this video, I'm going to go through 11 specific predictions covering the majority of the weight classes across both the men's and the women's side. I'm going to be talking or focusing on the weight classes that have a real clash of world-class level lifters, or lifters trying to qualify and make it to worlds. There are certain weight classes, for example, the 59s on the men's side. Wasco isn't competing. No one there is going to out-total his Sheffield 630 something number, so he's going to make it to worlds. Not going to be talking about the 59s. Similar thing with the 74s. I know Zachary Di Costanzo's there, 760-ish total, but he's not going to out-total Perk in the 840s. He's not going to go to worlds. Not a big clash there. So I'm going to be focusing on the rest of the weight classes. So starting off with the 66s on the men's side, and there are 3 contenders here. First off is Austin Nikolai, the young 21-year-old junior lifter, junior world champion from last year. 692.5 is what he put up at Junior Worlds. He actually attempted on his second and third deadlifts 308.5 for, at the time, a deadlift world record, and also a total world record, an open total world record he attempted already. At the time, was only 20 years old. Unfortunately, didn't quite get it, but he's a very promising young lifter. Then nominated in second is Morgan Aquino Garcia with a 700 total. That 700 was a number that he hit back in 2023. However, he actually totaled 715 in the USAPL as a 67.5 lifter at 2022 Nationals, which he actually won, beating the likes of Daniel Clemens, who I mentioned in my most underrated video, who was in the 740s. Although he has been injured since, he came back, and I believe he's totaled around the high 6s lately. At SPD Rally last year, put up 675. So he's coming back from injury still, but I've heard that he's in relatively decent condition, so it'll be interesting to see if he can put up 700 plus, which I absolutely think is required for the win. And of course, nominated in first place is the defending national champion and world's silver medalist, Jonathan Garcia, who obviously won PNS last year with that 715.5, which at the time was the heaviest ever total done by a 66. Obviously came second place in that legendary battle at Worlds. Didn't quite make it to Sheffield, controversially, over Panna, but he will be at World Games as well, and obviously wants to make Worlds again this year. Now, my prediction out of these 3 lifters is that Austin Nikolai beats the Garcias. Now, they're not related, they just happen to have the last name of Garcia, but I'm predicting Austin Nikolai gets the win here. The reason being is, well, number one, he's the youngest lifter by far. I think both Jonathan and Morgan are in their mid-30s by now, or at least 30s. So the lifter's going to be getting better at the most rapid rate, I would think. And he has the biggest deadlift by quite a long way. I mentioned he attempted 308.5 at Junior Worlds for the open world record deadlift and total, and he missed it twice. However, he has hit 310 in the gym since, and he has also hit this 300 kilo triple in the gym December of last year. Now, 300 kilo triple is massive for a 66, and he's doing a conventional. For all you sumo haters out there, it's pretty rare to see a 66 pulling crazy numbers like that, being a deadlift specialist conventional. But I think Austin Nikolai absolutely will have the final say with his deadlift. And I think, unlike at Junior Worlds, I think he's actually going to pull it off this time. With how strong his deadlift has been looking in training lately, he pulled a very easy 300 even more recently as well for just a single. But that 300 triple, he's pulled 310 before, I think is good for damn near 700 pounds. He could be a threat for Shell's world record deadlift, actually. But I think he is going to beat the Garcias and total whatever it takes. Like I said, he's pulling last, so whatever the total needs to beat those guys, he will pull it, I think. And we're going to see him at Open Worlds. So another young prospect emerges and beats out the veterans. That's my first prediction. Next up, oh boy, here we go. The Battle of the 83s. Now this is what we're talking about right here. So you have Taylor Atwood, who totaled 830, Sean Jin, who totaled 830 as well, Angelo Fortino 835, Chris Perez 840, Delaney Wallace 842.5, Sean Noriega 850, Joey B 865. So you have a total of 7 lifters there who are all 830 plus, which is absolutely crazy. I just realized I forgot to pull my pound conversions here, so my bad on that one. You're gonna have to bear with me on the kilos for this. But I did mention in my problem with being American in powerlifting video how close all of these guys were and how crazy it is that there's only essentially one world spot up for grabs with how the world's team selection works now. And I took a deep dive into each one of these lifters more in that video, so go check that out if you want more details on each one of them. But I'm going to go straight into my predictions for these guys, and I'm predicting, first of all, I'm going to say that Chris Perez podiums. Now this probably is a bit of an underdog pick, because out of all these lifters, a lot of the hype, obviously you have, and I am picking 2 lifters to beat him, so I don't want to spoil who that is yet, but there are other lifters who, potentially have a higher top end, like Sean Noriega totaled 850 not that long ago. Angelo Fortino has been putting up gym totals in the 850s, 860, or I think about that, pulling like 800 pounds in the gym. So he's been looking really strong. I was considering putting him as my pick for 3rd place and podium. However, the reason why, and of course Delaney Wallace being a 2-time world champ, can't count him out ever, but the reason why I went with Chris Perez for the podium spot is because he is the most consistent off the top level lifters, not just in the 83s, but across really almost any weight class. And I talked about him as well in my most underrated powerlifters today. So that's another video in the FNC. You can go check that out. I'll have all those links in the description. But I talked about Chris Perez in that video as well, because he doesn't get a lot of the hype that a lot of the other top 83s get, just because there's so many of them. It's very easy to overlook some of them. He's not a flashy single lift specialist on anything. He doesn't necessarily have a huge eye-catching, single lift like a huge bench or a huge deadlift, but he's consistent. He totaled 840 at SPD Rally, beating out both Delaney and Ange Fortino, only losing to, of course, Joey B at that meet. But his average across 9 lifts across his entire career, and he's competed quite a few times, is over 8 lifts. 8.2 is what it comes out as. So he is the most likely lifter to go 9 for 9. If I were to bet on one lifter to go 9 for 9 in this battle of the 83s, I'm betting on Chris Perez. Now, a big thing in this is going to be, it's not about necessarily going to be who's the strongest on the day, right? It's going to be who can go 9 for 9, get the most lifts on the board, and get the biggest total they can on that day. And Chris Perez, I think, is a good shout for making the most attempts on the day. And I do think that, I anticipated there's going to be a lot of people pulling after him to knock him off that podium spot, but I think there's going to be a lot of misses on that final round of deads. There's no way that a lot or even most of these lifters make their final deadlifts, because I anticipate a lot of them are going to go all in and take some huge jumps. I think Chris Perez is going to, go towards a PB total, so above 840, potentially 850s, getting towards the 860 mark, and I think that will be enough to podium, because I know a lot of these guys are putting on crazy gym lifts, but it's one thing to do it there and one thing to do it on the platform, especially in a heated environment like this where it matters the most. So there's my prediction. Chris Perez finishes in 3rd place. Who do I have above him? Well, my 3rd prediction is Taylor goes above 870, but it's not enough for the win. Taylor Atwood is going to come 2nd. Now, the significance of 870 being that obviously Russ put up 870.5 at Sheffield for the new world record in the 83s. If no one beats that, technically he can get the 83s world spot, even though he said he wouldn't do it anyway because of World Games. So for any of these lifters to make worlds, not only do they have to win and come first, they have to beat 870.5, right? I don't think Chris Perez will finish in 3rd. I think only 2 lifters are going to go above 870.5, one of them being Taylor Atwood. He is going to break Ross's world record, out total Ross, this time as an 83, not as a 74, but it won't quite be enough. I think Taylor Atwood, being the professional he is going to pace himself for an 870 day, make most or if not all of his lifts, but he just won't be enough to get that win. And most of you probably can anticipate who I'm going to be predicting as my winner next. But yeah, he's going to go 870 plus, which is a huge total. And the fact he's not going to win, I don't think with that is going to be crazy. but he put up an 810 kilo total in the gym just a few days ago, which you can see here. And all these lifts pretty much look like openers to me. I mean, the speed on all these lifts is crazy. You can judge for yourself, but I wouldn't be surprised if he opens with this, which in my opinion paces him pretty well to total around that 870 mark, which I think is his game plan going in on the day. I know he's talked some trash here and said that he's aiming for well above 870, but I think, like I said, being the experienced veteran and professional and GOAT that he is, he's going to pace himself for that 870 and hope it's enough. But for someone that doesn't take massive gym lifts and trains very submaximally, an 810 kilo gym total with lifts that easy says a lot about how strong Taylor Atwood is coming into this. Who do I think beats him? I think almost everyone is picking him. This is a surprise to absolutely no one. Joe Borenstein. Joey B wins and he takes the world spot. I don't think he totals 900. Obviously, we've all seen that infamous 900 kilo gym total put up in January this year. I don't think he totals that at this meet. I think he's going to load up. He's got the biggest deadlift out of anyone. He's going to load exactly what he needs to win and beat everyone else, and I think he's going to get it. And he's obviously, I mentioned that 900 total. Recently, he totaled 876. This was about a month ago. 876, including a squat double, which is already above the target he has to hit. And I think if he can hit an 876 on the day, I think that would be enough to win. Like I said, I think Taylor is going to just go low 870s to beat Ross's mark. And then Joby, I mean, one thing that is almost certain is he will have the final say. I mean, 370 deadlift is absolutely massive. He's going to have that final deadlift, and I mean, that looked a bit tough there, but he has pulled up to 380 in the gym before. I think he will do enough, and he will take the world spot, and we will see him at Open Worlds battling the likes of Ade, Durans, Enna. It's going to be an epic Worlds with him in it. I think he makes the team. Okay, on to the battle of the 93s. You thought the 83s were stacked? It is just as stacked in the 93s, if not more so. Again, I go into more detail on all these lifters in my Problem with Being American in Powerlifting video, so check that out for more detail on each one of these guys. But you have Jamar Royster, who's 865, Carl DeLeon, 870, Demetrius Smith, 872.5, Dominic Fuqua, 877.5, Jonathan Kaiko, of course, 893, Brandon Petrie, 895, and Gavin Aiden with 901. So again, you have 7 lifters who are all right there, 865 plus, in contention for being some of the strongest in the world, but they're all contending for, yet again, one single spot on that world's team. Oh, and by the way, if you thought that was nuts, there's another 2 lifters who are nominated a bit lower down, around about the 800-ish total range, but they're ones to watch as well. They're not lifting in prime time, but you have Jack Reynolds, who is a super young 18-year-old actually, who put up an 855 gym total with plenty in the tank a couple days ago. So he's probably going to do something pretty crazy despite not being in the primetime session. And Jordan McKinley is the other one on the right there, who is another young lifter, 22 years old, whose best ever total, despite being nominated with an 815 and not being in the primetime session, his best ever total is 870, with his best competition lifts adding up to 890, plus he hit a 10 kilo PB with a 220 bench recently. Again, I talk about him in my most underrated powerlifters today video as one of the most underrated powerlifters today. So yeah, absolutely stacked as a 93. Man, if you're a 93 kilo powerlifter in America, good luck. That's really all I can say. But going on to my predictions, my first prediction is we are going to see multiple 900 plus kilo totals and multiple 800 plus pound deadlifts. How epic is this session going to be? I cannot wait. Like, this is must watch powerlifting, really. If there's one powerlifting event you want to watch live, it is this one, because we're not just looking back at a highlight reel of 1 or 2 lifters doing their thing. It's 6, 7 lifters head to head, and you have no idea who's going to win. But yeah, I reckon we're going to see multiple guys go over 900 and deadlift over 800 pounds. Demetrius Smith, who you can see here, has deadlifted 375 kilos back in December of last year. Looks pretty smooth. He's one of the biggest pullers. And the other huge puller is Brandon Petrie, who has pulled 372.5 in comp and also in training. That's his recent 372.5 he did in training just about two 2 weeks ago in the gym, and that was shockingly easy. So I reckon we're going to see at least those two guys pull over 800 pounds, potentially even someone else, who knows. But out of these two, who's going to pull last is going to be an interesting one. And, who's going to load up for a podium, who's going to load up for the win, maybe. I cannot wait to find out. But I reckon we're going to see it, like I said, multiple. We've seen Gavin Aiden technically is the only American who has broken into the 900 kilos. But at Sheffield, now that we saw Gustav and Emil Krastev in the 910s now, that mark's been well and truly broken. And I think we're going to see potentially even a 900 kilo podium. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 900 podium at all. So yeah, that's going to be wild. However, who do I think is going to win? Again, is probably the favorite most people are picking despite not being nominated first. But it is the king of battles, Jonathan Kaiko. He finally makes his return, and I believe he's going to make it successfully, and he is going to win. Now, why do I say the king of battles? Jonathan Kaiko is probably one of the most battle-tested powerlifters ever. With how much of a meat grinder 93s are, you can see now, but even in the past, Jonathan Kaiko, in the years that he was between 2021 and 2023, he was the best 93 in the world. Period. It was consistently winning Nats, Worlds. And obviously 2022 he lost to Worlds Chance Mitchell, but apart from that little blip, he won Worlds, he won Nationals those years, and he won the showdown at Sheffield as well in 2023. Obviously lost to Gustav in 2024, and we haven't seen him compete since. Took a bit of a layoff, but he recently returned in training, looking in great shape. He totaled 927 in the gym back in February, which is absolutely huge, only a few kilos off 10 times body weight total. I don't think he's going to get near this on the day. However, I do think he goes 900 plus, and I do think he gets the job done. I mean, if there's one lifter who you can bank on winning in a real head-to-head battle, it's Jonathan Kaiko. Like I said, he's had legendary showdowns with guys like Gavin Aiden multiple times, Emil Krastev multiple times, Gustav Headland multiple times. And yeah, he's taken a few L's here and there, but more often than not, he's come out on top. On the biggest of platforms, we're talking Sheffields, we're talking Worlds, right? Previous US Nationals, both in USAPL and PA Nats. So I think Jonathan Kaiko, if you had to bet on someone, I mean, this is super close to call, right? There are several lifters who I was considering giving this to, but I just can't bet against Jonathan Kaiko, especially with how strong he's looked in training. So here's my prediction to take the world spot for the 93s. Okay, on to the battle of the 105s. So for this one, it's a 1v1, essentially. We have Anthony McNaughton with a 945 nomination, who his best ever total is actually 955 that he did back in the USAPL last year as a 110 kilo lifter. However, he totaled 945 at a Powerlifting America meet in January of this year, weighing only 102 point something. So still obviously very strong as a 105. Going up against Keenan Lee, whose best total is 957.5 that he hit at USAPL in 2022 as a 105. Then in 2023, in that showdown against Ash and Bob, weighing slightly over 105. But he has totaled that as a 105 in the USAPL. He recently put up a 955 gym total 2 weeks ago. And Keenan Lee has been talking some big game recently. He was recently on the King Lee's podcast and was talking about how he basically is planning his honeymoon over being in Europe and in Germany for Worlds. Obviously meaning he would have to beat Anthony at Nationals to make the world spot. And he's planning on being at Sheffield and, totaling 1,000 and winning Sheffield. He has these grand plans, which is awesome, right? I'd love to hear that kind of stuff and the confidence. However, first he has to get past Anthony McNaughton, who, another lifter that I mentioned in my most underrated powerlifters video. A lot of people aren't talking about him. He's potentially the strongest 105 ever. His best gym lifts add up to 970, I believe, which would be the biggest 105 total ever. And he's looking very strong. My prediction for this is that Anthony spoils Keenan's honeymoon. I think Anthony McNaughton is going to win the 105s and he's going to take the world spot, and Keenan Lee won't. And his honeymoon plans, unfortunately, are done. I know it would be a cool fairy tale, but I just think Anthony McNaughton is that strong that he gets it done. Now, a big factor behind this as well that probably is what swayed me, because they're both very similar in strength, right? What swayed me was Keenan Lee technically does not have a nominated qualifying total, so he has to lift in the morning session, right? He's not going to be lifting prime time against Anthony McNaughton. So essentially, he's going to put up a total in the morning session. He's going to do the best he can, and Anthony McNaughton has that number and that known target he has to beat. He's going to know exactly what he needs to do to win, right? It's not going to be a live battle back and forth. So that gives Anthony McNaughton a huge edge over Keenan, because Keenan, out of the two of them, is the bigger deadlifter. He's the bigger puller. So if they were to go in a live battle like all these other divisions are that I've mentioned so far, then Keenan Lee would probably be pulling last and pulling for the win, loading what he needs. However, being that Anthony is lifting after him and, he has a set target to beat, he can plan his attempts, he can, pre-plan exactly the numbers and work backwards from there, and it makes it a lot easier. So that's probably was the deciding factor for me to pick Anthony McNaughton. Also, speaking of the deadlifts, Keenan has the bigger deadlift. I believe 377.5 is his best ever pull in competition. However, at the recent meet that Anthony McNaughton did, totaling 945, he pulled his 365 deadlift, and he pulled it pretty damn easily. And that was like a 15 kilo PB for him. So, yeah, it might not be as big a difference on deads as we think. Although, like I said, it's not as much of a factor given that they're not going head to head live at the same time. So, Anthony McNaughton, in my opinion, sorry, Keenan, but I don't know if your honeymoon plans are going to work out. On to prediction number 8. Devin Williams is going to win the 120s. However, he will be overshadowed by Rondel Hunt. So obviously, for those that haven't heard, Rondel Hunt is going to be competing as a guest lifter, similar to how he did at 2023 USAPL Nationals when he last competed. Also, similar to that, Devin Williams actually won 2023 USAPL Raw Nats as well. However, no one seemed to care as much because he lifted in the same session as Rondel, where Rondel totaled his now famous 1045, right? One of the most impressive performances ever in powerlifting. I think this year we're going to see a similar thing. I think Devin Williams is going to win again, and he's going to take the world spot. And Rondel, as a guest lifter, is going to overshadow that by totaling somewhere well over 1,000, mid-thousands, right? And again, everyone's going to be talking about that instead of talking about Devin Williams winning with, in my opinion, what will be an impressive total. His best ever numbers are 960, I believe, is his best ever total. And he recently benched 267.5 kilos. And I'm talking like literally today he did this. 267.5, 6.5 kilos over his own world record of 261, with a very solid pause too, looking very strong. Huge bencher. So he's obviously looking very, very strong. And I think he's good to beat 960, potentially go 970 plus, maybe even unofficially break the 978.5 IPF world record, who knows, or come somewhat close to it. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a repeat of 2023 USAPL Raw Nats, where he wins, but he gets overshadowed by how much stronger Rondel is. And speaking of how much stronger Rondel is, we've probably all seen this by now, but he recently totaled 1045 in the gym with a very easy squat. That was actually 30 kilos below his best squat. So if he would have put a closer squat up, he would have been totaling in the high thousands, well over his best in the gym. I mean, Devin Williams probably outbenches him, which is impressive for him, but 425 deadlift is monstrous. How insane is that? But yeah, this was done in February. Rondel, I believe, he said that this kind of cooked him a bit, and he's probably not going to, total something too crazy. Well, he will total crazy because he's that strong, but he's probably not going to hit his 1100 goal at this meet. He's probably going to aim to do just slightly better than what he did last time of 1045, so mid-thousands, which is absolutely nuts. Shame that we won't see him at Worlds this year, but next year we will. Hopefully we'll see him in an international meet. And it's also a huge shame Bob Matthews isn't competing. And that's what opened the door for Devin Williams. And I made the grand claim in my previous Euros takeaways video that Nonso is now my favorite to win Worlds. Devin Williams is one of the, I guess, biggest lifters who are going to be challenging that. So he's one to keep your eye on. And, it's a bit of a shame that he's almost going to be overshadowed by Rondel, and that Rondel can't make Worlds. But I just wish Bob was there. We would have had the Bob v Rondel showdown, the most hyped showdown in powerlifting right now that you can make. Bob, for whatever reason, is not competing at Nats after not competing at Sheffield, meaning he won't compete at Worlds. I don't know what that man is doing, but I mean, we're going to see Rondel back on the platform, and that is a win, because anytime we can see that man compete is a great day for powerlifting. So I can't wait to see what he puts up. Okay, prediction number 9. Ray Williams wins national title number 10 with a mid-thousands total around about that 1050 mark. I went back and looked, and I'm pretty sure this would be his 10th national title. The fact that I lost count trying to count how many US nationals he's won shows how much of a GOAT he is and how long he's been around at the top level. Obviously, the last couple of national titles, he's a defending national champion, actually. I believe in 2023 and 2024, because Jesus hasn't had to compete at Nats since 2022, really, because of Sheffield. So even though Ray's been the national champion the last couple of years, he's still been quite a ways behind Jesus. And I do think we are going to see the strongest Ray that we've seen since his best, though. So Ray hit his best ever number of 1112.5, his best ever total back in 2019. And since then, he took a bit of a hiatus. He's come back around about the 1,000-ish range. But last year, when he won PA Nats, we actually saw him looking pretty strong. He squatted 460 pretty easily, total 1037.5. Still a ways off his best, but I think we're going to see the strongest Ray that we've seen since 2019. And I anticipate he's going to total around about 1050. It'll actually be interesting to see who gets the higher total, him or Rondel. That'll be crazy if Rondel out-totals Ray. I actually don't know who I would pick for that. I reckon they're going to be very similar numbers. I might almost pick Rondel, though, as crazy as that sounds. But I do think Ray is going to be around that 1050 mark. Obviously, for him to make Worlds, he has to beat Jesus' total at Sheffield, which was 1112.5, which I don't think that happens to be his best ever total, coincidentally. But I don't think Ray has any PBs in him at the moment. I know he's mentioned that he believes he can get back to his best and he's feeling not far off. But I don't think he will. I think we'll go mid-thousands, which will be good, and we're going to see a huge squat from him. Potentially even above. I know he attempted 480 at NAPFs last year over to try and beat Jesus's, at that meet it was an official IPF record. At this one it won't be. But he tried to squat 480 to beat Jesus's 478 and didn't quite get it at NAPFs. I don't know if he'll attempt it here, but I can't wait to see what he loads on that third squat. He recently squatted 455 in the gym. This was done 2 weeks ago. And from this angle, depth doesn't look great, but Ray doesn't really struggle with depth usually on meet day, so I wouldn't read too far into that. Very smooth 1,000-pound squat. I still think he's the greatest squatter of all time by quite a ways. And as of just literally today, he posted that he squatted 460. He didn't post the video, he posted his last warm-up, which looked pretty smooth, which was 400 and something, I don't even know. But apparently he squatted 460, and that's where he said that he's feeling close to being back at his best. So who knows, we could see him total in the high thousands, which would be insane to see. And man, it's a shame that we don't see Jesus show up to nationals, because even seeing this version of Ray against Jesus would be exciting, even though Jesus would be the heavy favorite. But Ray is clawing his way back to his best self, and high thousands, 1100 total. Who knows, man? Who knows? You can't count out Ray Williams, especially when he can still move a 1,000-pound squat like that. He also deadlifted 365 a few days ago, which he hasn't deadlifted more than 350 since 2019. So that's also huge dead. Who knows? We could see something bigger than most people think. Okay, on to the female side now. On the female side, there's nowhere near as much battles and I guess depth in most weight classes as there is on the men's side. The notable one for me is a 69 kilo weight class, where we have Jacqueline Malaito, 547.5, Celine Crum, 550, and Gabby Martinez, 553. So literally 3 of the best American 69 lifters who are, right there behind Leah Bavois, Carola Gara, obviously Agatha Shitko, maybe Marta Chenner as essentially top 6, top 5 69 lifters in the world, right? And they're separated by literally about 5 kilos. And this one is going to be super close. Jacqueline and Celine went head-to-head at SBD Rally last year, where Celine won by the 2.5 kilos. Gabby Martinez obviously is the defending champion. She won Nationals last year with that 553, and she came 4th at Worlds, just off podium. Yeah, looking at all their trainings seems to be going very well. The numbers are obviously very similar. I really struggled to pick a favorite for this one. However, I don't sit on the fence when it comes to these predictions, so I did pick one, and I went with Gabby Martinez. I think Gabby is going to defend her title, and in absence of any conclusive data, really, because they're all so close, I went with the fact that she has a slightly bigger deadlift. She recently, just today, or a few days ago, put up a 22.5 kilo deadlift double, looking very smooth, which I believe is around about the competition best of the other two ladies. And she had the 200 squat PB double as well, looking pretty smooth a few days ago, or about a week ago. And she has the momentum from winning last year and, relatively strong performance at Worlds as well. So I'm going to go with Gabby Martinez, although I would not be shocked one bit if, any of the other two win. I think that's going to be by far the most exciting battle on the female side. My final prediction, 11th and final prediction, is all the other female favorites win. Now, this is not a hot take by any means. Like I said, pretty much all the other weight classes, apart from the 69 on the female side, just have one heavy favorite who's pretty far in front, and I think all of them win. I don't think we're going to see any upsets on the female side. So on the 47s, obviously you have Jess Espinal, who's the current world record holder, 433.5. Her closest contender, Heather Connor, she's about 20, over 20 kilos ahead. In the 52s, Megan Hulbert, 453, about 25 kilos ahead of her next competitor. Actually, didn't put a photo of her there. Natalie Richards in the 57s, she's back 516.5, almost 70 kilos above her closest competitor, so shoe-in to win. Meg Scanlon, 555, about 60 kilos ahead of anyone else. She competed to Sheffield, so technically she didn't even need to show up to Nationals to qualify for Worlds, but she probably just wants to collect a national title, which, fair enough, why wouldn't you? So definitely think she wins. Crane and Warford in the 76s, also defending champion, 585, a good 50 kilos ahead on nominations of anyone else. Amanda Lawrence, 75 something kilos ahead of her closest competitor, obviously a shoe-in to win. She also competed at Sheffield and technically wouldn't have needed to come to Nationals to qualify for Worlds, but again, wants to pick up another national title, why not? And finally in the 84 plus is Benika Brown, who is a good 90 kilos ahead of anyone else on nominations. I think she definitely wins as well, provided she doesn't bomb out this time. And Alexis Jones isn't competing this year, who obviously was the American representative last year at Worlds. So we're not really going to see much of a battle there. I think Benika wins, makes it back to Worlds, and the veteran returns to the world stage. But there you go. Those are my 11 predictions for PA Nats. And like I said, we're going to see some huge head-to-head clashes, and I can't wait to see who wins. Let me know what your predictions are and how much of this you agree or disagree with.